Welcome, Yamhill County, to Speaking Frankly. I'm your host, Howie Harkema, and our tagline is, "And how we doin'?" Today I have a wonderful guest. It's Jenny Berg from the McMinnville Public Library, and she's the library director. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi.
I'm very glad to have you in here today.
Good to be here, Howie. Thanks.
It's National Love Your Library Month. What is the library doing to celebrate?
So our main program that we have for National Love Your Library Month is a heart-to-heart family read aloud. We've been doing this for quite a few years. And it is a way to engage children and families in reading aloud. So families can come into the children's room, sign up for the program. They get some prizes to start with just for signing up. And then the idea is to get the families to engage in reading aloud with the kids. And I like to talk about that because there's a lot of benefits for reading aloud.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And one of the things that I learned when I became the library director, realizing, because I wasn't involved in the children's services of the library so much, so I realized I had to really learn a lot more about that and how early literacy is very beneficial for kids, and that actually it's the 0 to 3-year-old and 0 to 5-year-old range that's extremely important.
I would think.
And so when you're reading aloud to your kids, you teach them, you engage them, first of all, which kids really enjoy that. You teach them about how a book works, which is kind of a funny thing. We take that for granted, but the realization that a book opens and each page says something, the fact that I'm just not making the story up, but the story's coming from the book.
Right.
They learn sounds and letters and vocabulary because of this,
Sure.
Because of reading. Concentration and attention is built because of this, and it builds their ability to listen, builds their curiosity, their motivation, their memory, and this is for children, but I think it's for all people, that reading helps to enhance and enlarge one's world. It sort of shows you possibilities beyond what is maybe just within your life and your understanding.
Well, I like to be read aloud all the time.
Yeah.
I use audiobooks,
Yes.
and when I travel, I listen
Yes.
to them all the time.
Yes. Yeah, and you realize, too, with that, it engages a different part of your brain, most definitely, than reading to yourself.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So, what other programs do you have at the library?
Oh, okay. Well, so one of the things I wanted to touch on too with the reading aloud aspect is, but this is a program, so it definitely falls within that realm, is we have 1,000 books before kindergarten program.
Woohoo!
And so this is, again, really focused on that 0 to 5-year-old population or even younger. Studies have shown that in the first 3 years of a child's brain development that 80% of the brain capacity is built at that time between the ages of 0 and 3, and that a toddler's brain creates up to 2 million connections every second.
Wow.
So this idea of 1,000 books before kindergarten, even though your child, we have a baby story time where the babies are, rolling around and putting things in their mouths and, maybe chewing on the books, but even that somehow engages them and helps in that vocabulary and learning process. So the 1,000 books before kindergarten, one thing that was pointed out is if you read a book a day to your child from when they're born to when they're 3, you hit 1,000 books, no problem. And so studies have also shown that the more that children are read to, the better they do in school, and then the more successful they are later in life. So that's one of the programs that we do. We also have, for kids, every weekday at 10 a.m. we have a program. We have story times for toddlers, preschoolers, and babies, as I mentioned. And then we also, on Fridays, have a Lego and building block time where kids can come in and with a parent or caregiver and play with the Legos.
And you've got one of
blocks.
those coming right up.
Yes, every Friday. So this Friday.
Awesome.
Tomorrow.
Unfortunately, this won't air until Saturday,
Oh,
so
okay,
it's
well,
the following Friday.
Yes,
But, yeah.
the next Friday.
Yep.
Every Friday. We have, also for kids, we have an American Girl book club where kids age 7 to 12, not just girls, but anyone, can come in and get a book, one of the American Girl books, and then they come and have a book club where they talk about the book, but they also will have snacks that are from that time period where the book is set, and learn a little bit about history as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you have for teens?
For teens, we have a game night, which is a once-a-month video gaming night, and there's been a lot of conversation in both library literature and in the communities in general about, well, what does gaming have to do with the library? And it definitely, I mean, obviously, computers, gaming, technology is a huge part of all of our lives right now. And it's just a different way of learning. But the other thing that was interesting for us is we surveyed the kids a couple of years ago, the kids that were involved in this teen game night, and asked them about social connections, that whether or not they were making social connections and feeling different levels of comfort within school and at the library and things. And the answers were all to the positive. So we felt really good about the fact that we're actually helping kids create these connections with each other, as opposed to sitting in their room by themselves gaming with other, somebody in some other place. So seeing that is really rewarding for us. And one of the things that I think about the library is very much being a place of community and a place of connection. So the idea of connection with people to people, people to ideas, people to books, people to technology, and all of our programs definitely have that bent to them. So it's not just about a place where we store books. It's really about a place where those connections are made. So with teens, we have the game night, we have a LGBTQ meetings once a month, and we also have a new program that we're partnering with the Yamhill County Health and Human Services to put on an Adulting 101 class, which is aimed at 15 to 24-year-olds to learn about things like cooking and getting your driver's license and getting insurance and things that that our complicated world has created that people need to kind of be helped through. And some of us have parents that can assist with that process, and others don't necessarily have that resource, and so they can come to the library and get some both assistance from the leaders of those groups, but also assistance and connections from each other.
Well, that's really important that we connect with each other.
It is.
In the 21st century, everything is so technologically advanced that we forget how to interact with each other.
Yes.
Facebook and everything else is almost more important in our lives. So for adults, do you have other things?
We do. We have a bunch of things for adults, and some of them are specifically for adults, but a lot of these are definitely things that kids could come to as well.
Sure.
One of the really popular events is Poetry Night at Ten Oaks Gallery, and this is something where the library, we often want to try and reach beyond the walls of the library.
Sure.
And so we go out into the community to do different things. We used to host this poetry night at Velvet Monkey Tea House, and then we moved it to the Ten Oaks Gallery, and it happens once a month. And this would definitely be one where it's mostly adults that are there, but certainly teens and kids could come and read their poetry. And there's different themes. I think the most upcoming one is where you spend time looking at pieces of art in the gallery and then write a poem about the art.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they've actually, Ten Oaks has then posted those poems next to the piece of art, and I have heard that people buying the art can also take the poem home with them.
Well, the Moros must be happy to have you there. That's fantastic.
It's been a great partnership.
So,
I'm not done.
Oh, good.
Every January and February, we also do conversation projects with the Oregon Humanities. And so the other piece, the connections, but also partnerships are really important to us. And so we partner with the Oregon Humanities group, and they send out a lot of different options for conversation projects that communities can bring in experts to lead conversations. And this is really about not I'm in front of this group and I'm going to tell you what's what, but we're sitting together and having a discussion about something that's relevant to the
Sure,
times.
a topic, a conversation.
Yeah. So the one that's upcoming this Sunday
Yes.
at 2 is called "How Do Our Values Influence Environmental Policy?"
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the fourth in the series of 4. And then we actually are going to bring Oregon Humanities back for another conversation project, along with our Mac Reads, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We have author talks, we have writing groups, we have music groups that come in and play together. We have a meditation group every Monday that meets in the library, book clubs, gaming groups, and more. Some of these programs are library sponsored. Others are people from within our community that are coming and saying, I really want to do this.
Right.
And if it's free and open to the public and within our mission statement, then we say, yes, please come in. So we've gotten some really interesting and exciting groups and presentations and things because we have opened ourselves up to that. We really want to be a community space where people can exchange ideas and make connections.
Well, the Carnegie Room is set up just for that very reason.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
So, what about books? Isn't the library about books?
Yes, it is about books. It's about books. It's about a lot more than books. And that's, I often, when I'm talking to people, I concentrate on all this other stuff because people always think about books for the library.
Right.
We definitely have a lot of books. We have over 160,000 items that people can borrow. Not just books. We do have a lot of books. You come to the library, you will see books. But we have audiobooks on CD. We have materials where you can learn a language. We have DVDs. We have games and puzzles. Those are fairly new collections, which have been pretty exciting and fun just to see how people use those in the library, and then and you can check them out as well. And then we have downloadable audio and ebooks. The puzzles, it's been really fun to see. People will come in, and you can check out the puzzles, but they don't necessarily check the puzzles out. They just will sit in the library and do the puzzle. We have one person who comes in at least a couple of times a week, and will just sit and do an entire puzzle in a day. There at the library. It's always fun for me to see.
I bet.
Yeah. And I ran into another woman this week who was at the library. She had knitting books in front of her, and she was knitting. And I love that. I just love that that's one of the ways that people are using the library, to come and it's a place to be. It's a safe and comfortable place to be, and maybe it's I think we often find that sometimes having that different space from our home or our work to be and engage in these more sometimes solitary activities. It's a place to do that while
it almost feels social, even if you're not interacting.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And it's it's probably the only place in town where you can go and do that, spend the whole day, and you don't have to buy anything.
Right.
And you can stay in that seat all day if you want.
So you mentioned downloadable audio and ebooks.
Yes.
What other technology does the library offer?
So we do have computers for people to use. We've got, I think, almost 30 public internet stations. We have Wi-Fi that's anybody can use at any point in time coming into the library. Actually, it's also accessible outside of the library. We have printers, we have a scanner that can be used, and then we have lots of online resources that people aren't aware of, but once they get to know them, I think they use them regularly. We have consumer reports online. So through the library website, you can access consumer reports using your library card from home. And one of One of the stories that I always like to tell is I was visiting my mom in California, and she wanted to buy a new barbecue, and I was able to log on to Consumer Reports with my library card in California to McMinnville and look up and see what the best barbecue was for her to buy. So it's handy to have that as through internet access.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you're able to do that from California by just logging right in.
Yes, which is the same. I mean, that's the benefit of all those online resources, the ebooks, the audiobooks. You know, if somebody's going on short or long range traveling, they just need their mobile device and they can get as many books as they want to, you know, on their road trip or whatever. We also have language learning software that's accessible online with your library card.
So if I wanted to learn Spanish, I could come there and do that.
Sí. Yes.
See.
That's about all I got, though. And we have genealogy is another thing that certain people are, you know, very interested in and get really into. And so we have a subscription to Ancestry Plus, which is one that a lot of people will use. And then we also have an auto repair. I think a lot of people think that everything's available on the internet, but if you go and try and look for a repair manual or something like that, it's often not very easy to find.
That's right.
Or maybe doesn't exist for free. But we have this auto repair manuals that can be accessed again using your library card.
So a lot of people use YouTube to do that because then they get a video of how to do all of that stuff. But it's not always the best and easiest to find.
Yes, or maybe not as in-depth as it might need to be.
Right. So where does your funding come from for all of this? Because it's not just the city.
Yes, although the city plays a very important role in it. So we are primarily funded from the city of McMinnville, the general fund.
Right.
But we do have a lot of partnerships. We're in a consortium with other public libraries in Polk, Yamhill, and Marion counties. It's the Chemeketa Cooperative Regional Library Service.
Okay.
It's a taxing district that covers those 3 counties, and that entity collects taxes and then distributes them to the various public libraries. This is because in our particular consortium, it's not a county-wide system like Washington County or Multnomah County. This is city-run libraries getting city funding. And so all those people that live outside of McMinnville or live in an area where there's not a public library, they get library service through this
So
CCRLS
it's more regional
consortium.
than...
It is regional.
Right.
And so that then enables the people that are living outside of the city taxing district to still pay a little bit of money and get the library services. So we get money from CCRLS.
Right.
We also have great support from both the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation. And of course, volunteers, while there's not necessarily fiscal support, that's a huge in-kind contribution. We have over 100 volunteers that work regularly at the library through shelving books and gardening in the native plant garden and on the Friends of the Library board and the Library Foundation board. And then donations, and we also do fundraising for special projects where we'll get grants and go out to individuals and businesses for funding as well.
So it's really important that people know that they can become a friend of the library.
Yes, it is very important. It's one of the things that actually it seems we have, you know, over 30,000 people in our community. We have over 20,000 card holders at the library, and we have only 200 members of the Friends of the Library, and it's only $10 to join. So it's more of I think people just don't know about it. So we are, through the Friends, we are talking a lot about how we need to get that word out. So thank you for asking, Howie. $10 for a year subscription to become a friend of the library. How could you pass that up?
No one could. So there's a lot that goes on at the library that people don't know about, like when you were doing the bricks outside and,
Yes.
and such.
Yes.
Do you have any projects like that coming up?
We do. We have, and this, so we kind of, it seems like lately the special projects have been, so the pavers out at the front of the
Right.
library,
Beautiful.
that was run by the Library Foundation in terms of getting the funding for that. And now it's the Friends of the Library, their turn. We are doing a children's room redesign. We, unfortunately, at this point in time, we really very much could use a larger children's room. Now is not the right time for it, so we thought, okay, how can we create the idea of more space without actually having more square footage.
Right.
And so that's sort of what we're aiming for right now with the children's room redesign. We received money from the Friends of the Library. We were actually the project of choice for the Kiwanis bid for kids this year, which
Awesome.
was fantastic. We have an Oregon Community Foundation grant as well for that, and I'm still looking for more funding as we see all these cool things that can be used for the children's room to help engage the kids. And that, the hope is that we're in the process of planning right now, and the hope is that that will happen in May prior to summer reading, which is our really busy time.
Sure.
Where we really focus on getting kids into the library and keeping kids reading throughout the summer. That's another thing that studies have shown is that if kids don't continue to engage their brain during the summer, that they can drop a grade or two, whereas if they keep reading, they keep thinking about math and engaging their brain synapses, then they can actually advance some grade levels or at least stay the same.
Yeah. So do you need additional volunteers? I know you spoke of 100 volunteers, but sometimes there's volunteer burnout and turnover.
We're always interested in people coming and showing an interest in volunteering. We used to do volunteers where we'd have introductions all the time. We've changed that now to a quarterly volunteer program where we just say, here's what it's like, here's the various jobs. If you're still interested after you've been shown the library and we talk about these jobs, then fill out an application and we'll. So yes, volunteers are always a good thing. And we're also the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation are often looking for new members.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you have any fundraising projects going on right now?
Well, the children's room redesign.
Right.
And then actually the other one that is near and dear to my heart is Book Buddies, and that's a summer reading program for kids that can't make it to the library for whatever reason. Oftentimes it's a geographic location that's not easy to come to, sometimes transportation issues.
Sure.
So we take the Bookmobile out. We basically take what we do for summer reading in the library and we bring it out to these locations. So we have 3 locations every summer where we're taking these, the Bookmobile and projects out to kids to engage them once a week. And that, we could definitely use volunteers for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a really fun one. Basically, it's just playing with kids.
So do you find when you when the summer hits and the kids are out of school that you need additional readers, someone to walk the kids through the books?
We have a great program where we have teen volunteers, so kids from the junior high and high school that come in, we hire a person, usually it's a college student, to lead those teens in helping with things during the summer
Sure.
with the younger kids. They will help with projects and sign-ups and craft projects and things like that. We don't actually do much other than our story times of specifically reading to children. Our hope is that our story times and our engagement with caregivers and parents will encourage them to read with their kids. But we don't, in some ways, we don't have the space to have, 5 people sitting with 5 different kids reading separately to them.
Right. Talk about the Bookmobile a little bit. I see it periodically.
Right. So it was something where, so the Bookmobile, we've had it, I think, for 15 years now. And it was something where it originally it was going out to a lot of different preschools and things. We got to the point of realizing that it's a pretty big vehicle to maneuver into small parking lots where there's preschools and things.
Sure.
And small children that, the visibility wasn't necessarily great. So we still go to those locations. We just bring boxes of books.
Sure.
So now the Bookmobile is primarily, not entirely, but primarily during the summer program. And so you'll see it a lot more during the summer. We'll take it out to schools before schools are out to sort of advertise the program. And then we have, like I said, 3 different locations where during the summer we're taking it out every week to visit those locations. And it's mostly for kids.
Yeah.
But the last couple of years we had parents at these programs during the summer that were interested in checking out books too. So we now have a couple of shelves of books for adults too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So sometimes books wear out and you give them away.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And some people think this is great. I've heard that not in our community, it's just been really well accepted.
Right.
But so the first step is to put the books in our book sale. And this will be if a book has not been checked out in 3 years.
Okay.
Then we say, okay,
Time out. Yep.
right, or if it's in really poor condition, or if it's in poor condition, we actually just get rid of it. But if it hasn't checked out in a while, or maybe it's not the most up-to-date information, we will put it in our book sale. The Friends of the Library run an every other month book sale, which is one of the benefits. You get in early if you are a member of the Friends of the Library. That $10 membership gets you into the book sales early. If they, within 2 or 3 book sales, don't sell in the book sale,
Right.
then they go out onto what we call the free cart. And it's a free cart that goes out into the plaza area, and we just have it out there for people to take books home. So it's a really neat way to, we're all about getting books into the hands of people in our community. And so whatever way we can do that, we know there are people in our community who can't afford necessarily the 50 cents to buy the paperback, and so they've got this other option.
That's fantastic.
It is.
So it's all about collaboration.
Yeah, it really is. It really is collaboration, partnership, connection, community. Those are all really big parts of what we want to do. We want to make sure that the library is a safe and welcoming place for everyone.
Right.
I think the public library is one of the few places in any community where all are welcome.
And we thank you for allowing some of the homeless population to stay there when it's too cold or too warm.
Right. We
appreciate that.
We are a inclement weather shelter.
Yes.
So during our open hours, anyone is welcome, whether it's too warm or too cold.
All inclusive. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
So this is my last question. What have you learned from doing this important community work?
Right. Well, I've learned that community is very important, and important community work is important. What it has taught me and kept at the forefront of my mind is compassion.
Yes.
All of the library staff, because it's a place that's open to all, you see all different walks of life.
Yep.
And you hear all different sorts of stories from people. And it's just a realization that not everyone has the same advantages.
Correct.
And that everyone deserves compassion because everyone has their own struggles. So that is definitely something that is, I continue to be reminded of. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is I have definitely learned to let people shine. Here I'm sitting here talking to you, but I had to bring all sorts of notes because it's the library staff that is doing all of this. It's, I have to brush up on, what is the children's room doing, because they're doing so much, because they're so engaged and they care so much about what they do. And so for me, it's about finding people's passion and letting them run with it. And
your staff does that in spades.
They really do. It's
amazing.
An amazing library staff, yes.
Well, Jenny, I'm sorry that we have to come to a close right now, but thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you for having me, Howie.
And if you want to get involved in the McMinnville Community Library of the 21st Century, please go to their website or the Facebook page, or call them, or go down and talk to someone and get involved. It sounds like the Friends of the Library for $10 is an incredible offer from our community. So thank you very much for watching today.